this, huh? Long time no talk, peeps. I upgraded. We are now a Sean and Brad stream as opposed to a Brandon and Brad stream. I could at least keep Sean in the camera. I had to yell at Brandon the entire time. Hey, man, it's a hobby stream. Stop taking the hobby pieces you're working on and hiding them from everyone. But we are doing part 2 of Deal With It. Orks, because one of us, I won't mention any names, had some issues, and we didn't get to finish. So when we last left our dynamic duo, we were talking about orcs. Where were we, though? That is the question we have to ask ourselves. I think we were in preparation.
I think we were down in how do we make adjustments to our list with orcs. I think that's where we were.
We identified strengths and weaknesses. Were we in making adjustments? Being time efficient, I remember yelling about this quite a bit.
I mean, do you want to yell about it again? We can totally have you yell about it again.
I enjoy screaming about it. I want to make sure people are on too, because we've got 2 lists to go over today, and I want to make sure that people get the maximum amount of love for the Trash Master. And that is my list, and that makes me happy. So let's talk about the end here. Communicating with your partner, walk timing, and your plan, and then we'll go into the actual list.
Sounds good. So the first thing that we kind of we're harping on in practicing with orcs is it's very important to have the ability to know when to WA and how to hold the resources to WA. That's a big part of when you're sitting across the table from an orc player. You are thinking, are they going to WA? Are they going to WA now? Are they going to WA later? What do I do about that? So knowing when and how to put on that pressure is extremely important when you're actually sitting down and playing with orcs. At the same time, knowing how to hide and project that threat onto your opponent so they start thinking about that question is equally as important.
Agreed. And there's no chance at all that I'm currently trying to get a Kenny Rogers know when to hold him meme. Just so I can throw it up while we're doing this. Absolutely no chance that that's happening. But I'm ready. I'm so excited because one of the things about putting these lists together is your timing. What's your plan? And when you put your list together, you have to have a plan involved in the list itself. You can't just go, cool, here's a list that has some damage. You have to have a list that has some damage, has some trash, but overall, no matter what, it has a plan. It has a plan for how you're going to score points. And I see too many lists that just kind of throw the best stuff out there and go, I'm going to figure it out. You have to practice that plan. You have to figure out when the timing is for things like your walk going in. What are units that you're going to use for what? We talked about this a little bit in Demons. You got some army units in your army that aren't for killing, they're for scoring, and they can do backup damage, but you have to figure out who's what and what is your plan to do things with it. So it's very important that you don't just go in with a list that says, I want to do things. Exactly. We definitely do owe me 5 pesos, come on. But
it's 5 pesos each.
It's getting expensive up in here. But it's a thing that you have to have a real issue with. I have a real issue with lists that don't have a plan that goes with them. You can have a bad plan, to be honest with you, but you have to know what your game plan is with your units, which is why use these as the staging point for making your own stuff, because it's a big deal that you're comfortable with your list. We talked about that yesterday. Because if you just grab an online list and you don't know why the things are in there, you're going to have problems making it work because you don't know what the intent is on certain units, and you're going to be using them incorrectly, and you're not going to getting max value out of it. And when you're playing orcs, some of your stuff's not the most efficient, so you have to be using it the most efficiently. So it's very important. Now let's talk about the best list in the universe right now.
Oh man, Brad is foaming at the mouth to get.
I am so excited.
To get this list. Well, Brad, why don't we finish off? I know you're trying to get there, but we gotta keep some coherency here. We gotta.
You know, right. I showed this. I gave him a sample. A sample of the sample.
Oh man! All right. Take us to the making adjustments. We'll finish up, and then we'll hit him with some knowledge.
Fine. You know,
I know. Brad's foaming at the mouth. He's been thinking about this all night. He's like, oh man, I got cut off right at the best part, right where I get to show him the list. So, but we gotta slower roll here. We
already talked about making adjustments. You're gonna talk about dealt with it. The preparation, identify, run down the 5 steps that we have.
All right. So if you recall from yesterday, we know in preparation how our army is going to score with Orks. We know our combos. We know we want to take a bunch of guys riding dinosaurs. The more squigs, more better. We found out that preparing and knowing how your tournament's terrain is going to work, if you can wobbly model charge through walls, if that's allowed, is going to be critical to our success with Orks. Also, if you know you're playing missions where you start closer to your opponent, that is definitely going to influence whether you want to take a more shooting list or a more melee-oriented list. Then we went into identifying strengths and weaknesses. This is identifying your own strengths and weaknesses as Orks, knowing that you are mostly a melee pressuring and scoring army, that strong save stats are a weakness for us. 2-up saves are really hard with Orks having a lot of low AP, and that if you aren't scoring points, you do not need to be stepping into the open as Orks. We have 4-up and 5-up saves, and for the most part, if we're not in the wall, we are going to be a very flimsy army. And we also identified that most of the top armies are fast and strong with consistent damage, and we took a look at how we could kind of match our strengths and weaknesses up, and we chose to emphasize our strengths as Orks. We know we're going to put out a lot of volume of attack. We're going to really pressure our opponent early, and we're going to focus on taking out their units to score. And then it doesn't matter if we don't have an army more. We're going to be able to move it on to making our plan. We're going to make our plan around scoring first, getting the pressure on, and then as they pick up our army, suddenly the score is going to be 80-50 in our favor. And that's where resource management and measuring the aggression out so that you get that, that 80-50, that 90-60 game in your favor. Whereby turns 4 and 5, you should have just a lone unit aggression hanging out trying to farm that CP on your back objective.
What? They farm CP?
And as you may recall from yesterday, Brad has yet to ever even attempt to farm a CP with his Gretchen. He just doesn't even know that they even do that. That's how often they stand back there in the back and hang out. We looked at some of what our plans are into specific armies. We're going to kind of limit where Eldar can move. We're going to put Baby in the corner. We're putting Brad in the corner, and he's going to sit there and like it while we take out all of his warp spiders and his little trash units. Against Knights, we're gonna show him what Mazrag can do. We're gonna show him that an Ork on a dinosaur is better than war machines from the Dark Age every time. And against GSE, we're gonna flood the board. We're gonna put so many bodies everywhere that GSE has to drop down and shoot at things they don't want to shoot at, and then we're just gonna go and tag them. What do we mean by that? We mean we're not physically going to kill them in most cases. We're just going to touch them and keep them in melee there, because GSE melee is pretty terrible. And Orks with T5 means those GSE boys are going to be hitting on 4s and wounding on 5s a lot of the time.
Yep, and we've got a -1 to wound strat, so they can just put them at 6s and go, yeah, we're standing here forever with you. Just enjoy this.
That's exactly right.
Hugs, not drugs, baby.
Our hardest matchup is the Golden Chads, the Adeptus Custodes, and our plan with them is to, admittedly it's a hard matchup, but we're going to hit them first, and we're going to tie them up with our Squig Riders, because Squig Riders are actually pretty hard for Custodians to deal with if they don't get those rerolls to wound. So we're going to tie them up before they get those objectives, and then we're going to score our points anyway. Finally, what do we practice as Orks? We just went over it. You got to know when to wah. You got to know how to hold them and when to fold them. You got to know
When to
what
walk
your
away,
laws.
you gotta know
Yeah,
when to
yeah.
run.
When to walk away, when to law away, and more importantly, you got to get comfortable losing your units when you're playing orcs. You got to know that it's okay if just your lone Gretchen are sitting back there and kind of doing the Travolta meme of, hey, where everybody go? And that's perfectly okay with orcs.
Nothing wrong with
And
that.
doing it in a particular way is the key there. And finally, you're going to get comfortable changing up your list if something is not working for you. You do not need to settle with whatever the meta list is if it's not working for you. Find out what you like to be doing with orcs and make this plan. Run down this checklist for your list, and you will find success even if it's not the most meta list.
That's the thing is that you need to know. Knowing is half the battle.
Exactly right. All right, Brad. I've run through it. Let your inner wah out. Just show the world what you're taking to
Sample
know.
this, bitches!
Oh, man. All right, Brad. Run us through it.
Things are happening. First off, Mozrog riding the Great White Whale, doing mad damage. 4-up invuln, 4-up Field Pain, rocking it out, doing 5/6 damage to Titanics. Woo! With some anti-keywords. Rocking it out. Captain Badrock. He's going to hang out with some flash kits that we're having down here. They've got their own ride with a wrecking ball. And he's giving it full rerolls. We got a mech with me who's actually giving that +1 to hit from the truck. He gives it to the truck, and the truck will have flash kits inside of it. So we're hitting on 4s, which feels fantastic. And then when we get out, we're getting full rerolls from Captain Badrock. It has a huge volume of shots. I think that Captain Badrock and a unit of flash kits, no matter what your army is for orcs, I think is an auto include. It's a big deal on that. It's so good. Knob on Smash Squig with the head Wappa Kill Choppa. He's doing mortals on successful wounds. All of his stuff is doing mortals. And he's joined with a 6-man unit of Squig Riders. He's giving them +1 to hit. And he is doing mad crazy damage with his mortal wound output. You've got 2 beast bosses, which are going to go with these 2 units of 10 beast snagger boys. They jump in a truck. They are effectively my least favorite unit with my favorite guy. That unit is basically a blade of wounds and rerolls on the beast boss, who again does mortals on the charge. So you've got tons of devastating wounds coming out of the charge, and it feels fantastic. You can just literally soccer toss vehicles. He's got anti-vehicle 4, anti-monster 4, as well as the knob on Smash a Squig, and he actually goes down to anti-vehicle 3, anti-monster 3 on the turn of the walk. So why is Brad not shirtless? I was promised shirtless Brad. Well, I went full classy instead. I was gonna do nipple tassels, but I decided on a suit jacket.
I did stop him from going full Brad. I mean, we can't have that. I leave that to Jamis Togden. We don't go full Brad here.
So, but I love these combos a lot. I have 3 vehicles right now. They are Beast Snagger Boys with Beast Bosses, Flash Kits with Badrock, and that is the combos they're going in there. Then I added a full unit of Gretchen, because if I'm going to forget to roll 4-ups to get CP, I want to do it with at least 2 units of Gretchen, not just 1. Also, if you guys are wondering, Gretchen come with 11 models.
Very, very crucial, that 11th model. Definitely didn't need that one in a recent big tournament.
It will not come back to haunt you if you think that they have a different one, so never going to come back to haunt you. But the Gretchen are fantastic. I'm thinking about putting one on the board, one off board. Most of the objectives right now at a lot of the different missions, you can just walk around and immediately do an action on them. It's fantastic. Full Brad sounds like its own Pornhub tag. I love everything about that. So then we go into the newest thing that I'm putting in here, and it's actually this is for, hopefully Pajamas is still watching on this, because I've decided that my 3 mech guns are going to be bubble chuckas, just so when I get on stream, I can continually say Bubble Chukka, and it makes me happy. Also, 2/3 of the time, they are at least as good as a Smash Gun, and 1/3 of the time, they're even better. Also, 1/3 of the time, they're way worse. But I want to be able to...
Also, everyone needs to know that, so you see there's a change here to the list. Brad sends me no less than, 5 orc changes in a week to his list and asks me what I think and keeps my head spinning so fast that I can't ever respond in a reasonable manner before something else changes in his list.
Oh, 100%. I'm like, what do you think about this, Sean? And also, the best part about it is I've only changed 200 points of my list. I just change it 47 times. Remember we were talking about solving for X? I have a core of my army. The core of the army here is Maz, 3 trucks, the Squig Boys, Gretchen, and at least 2 of these Stormboy units, even though I put in 1 extra because, well, GSC don't like those Stormboys, by the way. Rapid Ingress Stormboys, move, advance, charge. Oh, look, ambush tokens are taken away. Go on, get. So it's important that when you're testing, what we talked before, that you're trying to solve for a small part of the army. You don't change the core concept of your army. You change for a small thing. Now, go ahead.
I would say that's a really key thing there is, we joke, I'm joking about that, but that is something you need to be doing. And that's part of that make adjusting step. You will always be making adjustments to your list to solve for X, like Brad said. And the key thing is once you find your personal core, Brad just explained it. It's Mazrak. It's the ability to just, hang out with this core set of units and be able to change everything else around it to get whatever objective you need done for a particular tournament. And that'll hold true even as we go into the data slate. Even as the meta changes, your core will pretty much stay the same because that's how Brad enjoys playing Orks.
Yep.
And he's got it locked down.
And the thing about it is I'm constantly changing a small part. And the thing is that you want to be experimenting all the time, making your list, just trying things, making your list better, sometimes make it worse, but you have to experiment to figure out what's going on, especially adapting to the changes in the meta. So, but again, the core concept of your list cannot change. You can't just be changing everything all the time. You won't find the most optimum build, and you won't find the most optimum build for you. Use this as a staging point. This is a fancy, I've had a lot of success with this. Love playing it. It's a very aggro board control. You have the option of YOLO swagging with, of course, being passive aggressive. Don't just show yourself to your opponent, but you can really put baby in the corner with this list. Get some big points. You've got a huge amount of ability to just score. Even if you're getting just wood chippered off the board, this list will put up a giant amount of points. When can I see your Pokemon card collection? I was too old for Pokemon. I don't have any Pokemon cards. I'm 1,000. Pokemon. All I know is that Pokemon is the story of a 10-year-old kid that got kicked out of his house because his mom wanted to hook up with a professor and told him to go wander the woods. That sounds like a tragedy to me.
No. Brad's cards he had to chisel into stone. That's what he had to do.
You guys are like, hey, I want to trade some cards. It's like, man, are you carrying all your stone tablets everywhere you go? It seems so ridiculous. So, but I like this list a lot. This is what I'm going to play in Nova, and I enjoyed playing it. I'm going to play it in the Condo RTT this weekend to get some more games in with it. But I like the ability to score points no matter what's happening. And I think that's a big deal in a lot of lists is you can't just make straight damage lists. You also have to figure out how am I scoring. It's a huge deal.
And a big part of that is, Brad saying you're not focused on damage, but very crucially in this list, it does have key damage units. And I think that's something that people really struggle with is identifying where their key damage dealing units are. So Brad, in your mind, when you're looking at this list, this is your baby that you keep sending to me over and over again. I've noticed your key damage units haven't ever changed. Why don't you go over your key damage units?
Well, so Mazrog's a big deal. The characters are actually very crucial to this list. Mazrog is not only a big damage dealer because he's +1 to damage against vehicles, +2 to damage against Titanic, but he's putting out a big amount of damage. He's also a damage suck because he's got a high toughness with a 4-up invuln and a 4-up feel no pain. So he takes a lot of damage to get rid of. So a lot of times people either have to overcommit or they undercommit and don't do anything to him because he doesn't decline. Then you've got Captain Badrock with the flash kits. That is just a consistent leave him in the truck until you really need him to get out of the truck, because it's just annoying for your opponent to try to get those out. They do consistent damage. They have a huge amount of shots, and it's fantastic. Now, the Knob on Smash a Squig and the 2 Beast Bosses are consistent devastating wounds. When they charge, they are doing devastating wounds. You can just do a huge amount of damage to things when you hit them. Just everything's 2 damage there, but that devastating wounds just guarantees that those wounds are going through.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it. And I wanted to comment on Austin here in the chat. Austin, you've just joined us.
He does.
Yeah, Brad. We just talked about it. How Brad realized his mistake in even giving me the list, and we talked about how Brad has sent me, this same list with 200 points changed about 5 or 6 times each week. So this is the iteration. Brad, why don't you go over? I believe the mech just does have the kill saw because it's just better.
He does have the kill saw.
He does. But we explain again for Austin the choice of what your mech guns have, because that was kind of important.
Bubble chuckas. You know why? Because I want to say bubble chucka. That's the main reason why. But in all seriousness, the Bubble Chukka is basically a smasher gun, or better, 2/3 of the time. You roll a d6 on a 1-2, it's effectively an anti-infantry gun, and then it's on a 3-4, it's strength 9, on a 5-6, strength 12. You know what I mean? So you have an upside for it, and I get to say Bubble Chukka. The Smash a Squig, he's going with the Squig Hog Riders, and I want that +1 to hit on that big unit. So, and that's usually the target of my -1 to wound strat. And I want mortals with all of my units that can have that. So Beast Snagga Boys are basically caddies for the beast bosses. The Squig Hog Riders have that keyword anti-vehicle, anti-monster, and then he's just doing mortals. So it gives me the option to pick up things a lot of times that I normally wouldn't be able to go into. So,
and something I also wanted to mention, Brad, while you're doing this, is we've talked a lot about putting "Follow Me, Lads" on the Knob on Squig.
Yep.
That's something that I constantly am saying to Brad, like, yeah, we could do this. And the main reason you would want that is against Eldar, when they're trying to like Night Spinner all these orcs riding dinosaurs. You're like, cool, I can advance. I'll still just move 12 anyway, because the Squig Hogs get to just ignore mods to their advance and move. Now, while they can't advance anymore, moving 12 is still pretty good.
Still getting you places. It's a big deal on that. And I have thought about that quite a bit. And this is hard because, well, building armies in fifth edition. In 5th edition, I'm playing my Grey Knights. In 10th edition is tough because I can't just drop a guy. I can't just drop a weapon. So fitting in points a lot of times just becomes difficult. Like this list is exactly 2,000 points. So for me to put that in there, it's a little bit difficult. I do want to work it in, and I might try to get it in by Nova, but I do want to think that I'll do it on that. So, right. 7 Quick Squig is a crazy turn 2 ingress too. It's a big deal on that. And one of the things in this list that's fantastic is it's got answers to most everything. And when I say answers, sometimes it's not even kill answers. It's just move block answers, scoring answers. You've got the damage to try to take out knights, but we've got so much trash. I can get in the way of knights. I can just make it so they can't get to where they need to go. And the knights can table me, but if they just don't score secondaries for crap, then it doesn't really matter. And one of the things is if somebody tries to take fixed secondaries, if they're letting fixed secondaries on it, you can just hide things. I don't need any one thing here to make it. So if they're trying to take a combo of, bring it down or something, man, look who's going in reserve, who's never going to be seen. I'm going to have a mech gun tea party. But you've got counter option plays on this. Yeah, finally caught a stream again. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Every Tuesday, hopefully. I know this is the weird one, but every Tuesday at 2, hopefully.
What? That's the best time ever, right?
Yeah, it's just where we are, apparently. One thing I did want to mention while we have a lot of people here is don't, we stress this when we're going through the plan here, the 5 steps to actually dealing with it. This is a sample list. and we've titled it that way for a reason. This is Brad's Nova list, but I guarantee you, if you take this list and try to play it, some pieces just won't make any sense to you at all. So I cannot stress enough, this is a sample. This is an idea. This is to get you, thinking about orcs, thinking how to play orcs, thinking how do top players actually put things in their list? Where are we coming from when you see these things? It used to be a lot of times I looked at lists and I'd be like, why is this random unit in there? And you have to know that last 200 points, like Brad said, is just messing around with exactly what you want to solve for.
100%.
And you may find the oddest units to do it. I know one that goes in and out of Brad's list all the time is the Shock Jump Dragsta. Very obscure unit, but Brad has specifically in mind what he wants to do with that unit when he takes it. So that, honestly, Brad could change his list again and it could just end up in there. That's how Brad rolls. But yeah, for the most part, keep this in mind. It's a sample, and you do not have to religiously follow this list. I see that very often of people who are just like, yep, this is the best thing. You just have to take this. I don't know why you're not taking this. That is not how 40K works. That's how, competitive card games work or something like this. In 40K, every unit gets to do something. Your opponent is not going to stop your guy from walking onto an objective and doing, an action or doing a cleanse, doing something. So every unit has some amount of value inherently, and that really changes what your list can be doing.
100% on that. And it's a big deal in this that you, again, make it your own. But you can play a list. You have to figure out what the pieces do for me. For instance, for me, I have a lot of trash because that's the way I like to play. I like to play a lot of move blocking. I like to play a lot of reserves. I like to play a lot of just things to score secondaries. I want to just score points. I'm not just looking to kill, even though I have a lot of damage dealing pieces in here. But I need multiple things because I don't want to be stuck with, oh, I wanted to use this unit to move block. Well, now it's not scoring my secondary. I need enough things to be able to trash. Oh, Jeremy coming in with the giant super chat, baby. Throwing down the $1, slamming it. Mainly because I said, guys got to make $1. Love it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate you.
But the thing is on this list really encompasses like how I play. I play with a lot of trash. I play a lot of move blocking, and I really look to score more than I look to kill. A lot of people play that different. If you know who wouldn't want this list ever in a million years? Ogden. Tom, great player. If I gave him this list, I actually think his hands might melt. It might look like he opened up the Ark from Raiders of the Lost Ark. He might melt from this. There is so much nonsense and so little damage comparatively.
And that's a big part about it is if you don't know that going in, if somebody just, pops in and screenshots this list and then takes it away, they're not going to understand, hey, I'm not really doing any damage. Aren't orcs supposed to do a ton of damage with everything? It's like, nah, man, you didn't catch the rest of the stream where we told you, don't do that.
Yes,
have your plan.
Austin goes, is the mech your warlord? Indeed he is. The guy that's never going to see any space. The guy that literally never got deployed in ATC, that guy, that's my warlord. Oh, Stan coming in with $10, brother. Make sure you throw on Saturday if we play, Sean. Uh-oh. Call out.
Oh, snap. Oh, man, Jeremy is calling me out here. Yeah, this is going to be a fun little RTT. And I'm glad that people are coming up.
See, he said that, but what I heard was bring your weak-ass shit. I mean, that's what I heard. Maybe I translated it wrong into Brad Knees, but I felt that was what happened. So,
yeah, just sharing with that. Jeremy saw that I'm playing Ultramarines, and he's like, "Stop! Whatever you're doing, stop it. That is not the hot competitive action I'm looking for." And I told him, "Look, man, I got some WTC tech I'm throwing down." And Jeremy, resident custodian, resident golden Chad, he's going to face the wrath of all these bolters. He's not even ready for it. Not even a little bit.
Bananas. Are we going to talk about Grot tanks, baby?
Yes, we are. And this is where I come in, and I will give the
I love that
preference.
It's also carrot and stick.
Yes. Okay. So this is Tarzan's list. Baywatch, DOG Baywatch, that is where Carly and I are co-captains of. That's out of Tennessee. This is the Bay. Tarzan is Bay.
I love that
And
you
this is
got
Tarzan's list.
the best picture you could possibly find.
Oh, yes. We have a trove of wonderful Tarzan pictures that we do share all in the chat. And this is just a little taste of the secret. And he is Bay. I mean, just look at that face. Come on, guys. All right. So what do we mean by carrot and stick? And we didn't talk, I know we talked about the different types of armies, or we're talking about practicing, but I wanted to save this one and say this as an intro to it. This list has been talked about several times across multiple YouTube channels, and per Tarzan himself, not a one of them has gotten it correct how it plays. And I do understand how it plays, and I'm going to share a little bit about it with you. But the main reason we can't go over everything is because Tarzan did express to me that we did have permission to use his list and talk about it a little bit. But since he is currently competing for #1 Orks ITC, he does not want me to give away all the secret sauce. So first off, why is it carrot and stick?
Hold on. This is where I'm calling him out. If anybody wants my secret sauce, I will tell you every secret about my list. You can plan for it in advance. There you go.
That is true. If you run word, letter for letter, unit for unit, what Brad's doing, just ask him. He'll tell you right away, and then he'll send you 50 different lists, and you'll be so confused it won't even matter.
True story.
That's accurate. So why is it carrot and stick? Okay, so how this list functions in essence is you decide who's going to be the bait, and you decide what the carrot is. You say, oh, my opponent really overvalues Mozrog. Well, here's Mozrog right at a spot where you don't want him to be. And your opponent then has a choice. How do I deal with this carrot? This Mozrog, this Gazgul and Meganops, this unit of Squig Hog Riders, this unit of Grot Tanks. And regardless of what they pick, your Orks then step out and do something that Orks are usually not known for, which is shoot the ever-loving piss out of you with wildly efficient units with random damage 3 rocket launches. And something you need to understand about this list is it plays a reserve-heavy game. So you move something out, they either take the bait or don't, and then you drop flash kits out of reserve. You drop grot tanks out of reserve, and you just shoot them. And what makes this so effective, because as you'll notice, this list has 0 trucks.
Pause on it real quick, though. You do have to make sure that when you're playing this list, that you realize this is effectively a close shooting army with all this.
Yes.
So you have to set up your blocks, you have to set up your angles to get those great shots. Continue, though.
That's right. And I am simplifying it a little bit because, I got the, if we're going to use somebody's list, we're going to at least, give them respect of what they want out of it. But that is the general idea behind it. And deciding who the carrot is going to be and who the stick is going to be is this entire list in a nutshell, because your opponent will not expect Orks to perform like Tau. Also, nobody expects that Grot Tanks are OC 2 apiece.
Yep.
So
I was just about to say that.
Suddenly, Grot Tank's charging you. Whew, spicy.
What's also weird is the fact that you can come in and bring these, because they're fairly economically costed, those Grot Tanks are. And,
they are.
And you get angles on this. And it's a big thing to look at this army and go, it's looking to get close, it's looking to get angles, and it's looking to pick up entire flanks. This isn't just standing. When you're playing your Orks, almost any army, to be honest, but especially with an army like this, he's showing up with all of the damage, and then he's going to delete one side so that they're not getting shots back. That's so important. You don't want to just spread the love all over the entire world. You want to delete. Comes in, deletes this edge, cool, and then you start moving around.
That's exactly right. And something that's very important about how this list functions is, and why it came into my mind of, dangling the carrot and then hitting them with the stick is Grot tanks have this awesome rule called scatter, where if you move within 9 inches of them, they just move 6 inches. So you dangle the Grot tanks out, and Grot tanks are actually surprisingly, tough. They're a tough little unit. They got, I believe, 5 wounds and T6 with a 3-up save. That's a real stat line for a little rinky dink unit that's putting out 5d3, strength 9, AP2, flat 3 damage attacks. And then if you try to get close to them, they just peace out. And then the rest of the army comes in and hits you. And that is a fantastic way. Eloise is saying in the chat, how does this list deal with Eldar? I was given permission to say one thing, which is that this list in particular does not have a great Eldar matchup. And through his 5-0 run, he didn't play against Eldar. He did beat up on GSC, like horribly bad. Like GSC is just
that's what happens when you have all blast all the time. And
all blast all the time. Yeah, it's really good.
Scatter is okay for no CP.
Right.
They also can't go through walls and stuff too, so that's a big deal.
That is true. So this is an example of taking something Tarzan, extremely good Orc player. I play against Tarzan regularly on TTS and regularly kicks my butt. And he is. He loves Orcs. He tries everything, and the main reason I want to talk about this list is obviously it went 5-0 at a GT. It went 5-0 at Pecking Order Rise of Kings GT up in I believe it's Olympia, Washington. So this is an example of how you can tailor to your specific play style. You can make a plan that's completely different than any theory that people are putting out there. Anybody who's saying, oh nope, this is the best Orc list, you just have to take this. You can design your own list, take it to a GT, and go undefeated. And that is really something that comes down to how is your practicing? I got a chance to practice with Tarzan with the earlier iterations of this list, and just watching the things that he would do differently and the things that he would change in other games. And I'm here telling you, this is how you deal with it. You practice, you make a plan, you make your little adjustments every which way. And most importantly, you get familiar with your style of list. Nobody is expecting this Orc list. If he shows up with it, no one is going to know how to play against it. No one has you don't have any practice games against it, and he knows exactly what he wants to be doing on every turn, which is a huge boon in any tournament.
100% of that. Yeah, that's why, again, practice and game plan goes so big into being good with a faction. You have to know what everything does. You have to be comfortable with what everything does, and you have to be practiced with it, so that when you need to change your game plan. One of the things I tell people all the time, first off, obviously I have a game plan. I've harped on it so much. But at some point in time in the game, no matter which list you're playing, you're going to have to be bottom of 2, top of 3 is what I usually say, depending on who goes first and second. You have to reevaluate that board and go, don't get into reactive 40K. What happens is in 90% of games I see, everybody's got a great game plan, and then they get punched in the face, Tyson style. Yep. And then they just go, I need to kill all their models. Yes, you need to kill models, but you need to be on your game plan of, well, how am I still scoring? Could I move block here? Is it better for me just to run away? Can I just score my secondaries? Can I get in the way? Score your points, win the game. Don't just try to kill people, especially when you're talking about armies that might not have as efficient of stat lines, especially when we're playing Index Hammer.
That's exactly right. And another little tidbit I was given the okay to throw out is there are some changes he would make to the list, and we talked about this, and he does have a direction he's going, and I can't share that, but I will say the least impressive unit in his whole list was Gazkul and 3 Meganobs. So he is, and that's why I've highlighted him here. These are things that he's looking to potentially change. And I will tell you that most of the time, Gazkul and Boys knobs were a carrot in this list, something you dangled in front of your opponent. So with that little tidbit, that is actually all I have to say about this wonderful little list of fantastic works.
You know, I tell him I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed with all this secrecy and shadow. A proper orc player sends their style and their plan in the mail, pre-done, lets them know exactly what they're going to do. Then you win, even though they have.
Yeah, that is the Brad way, big and flashy. Brad's like a production. You just follow him around and you never know what musical you're going to get.
Exactly.
I got Kesha. I got Kesha at Kansas City when we were playing. He just stopped in the middle of the round and started playing Kesha, and I just looked over and went, "This guy's our team captain. This is the spirit we embody." Yep, just rocking to Kesha.
I demand. What?
Oh man.
So I like the best part about one of the things I like about Orcs so much right now is look at these two lists. We've got a couple things in common, but we've got wildly different play, and I think both these lists are going to do just fine. They already both have done really fine in big tournaments. I took a version of that to ATC, and he just went to Salt Lake City. What was it? Where he's at? I can't remember which one he was at. But whatever.
Olympia, Washington. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, whatever. Out west. I'm just saying both of these did really, really well, and they're wildly different lists. Orcs have viability. You just can't stand in front of your opponent. You have to have that game plan. You have to look over your strengths and weaknesses, your opponent's strengths and weaknesses. Practice, look at those top armies and how to play in them. Game plan, game plan, game plan. You're not going to win with Orcs by just standing in front and doing Braveheart charges on people. It's just not the way to win. You need to have that plan of how am I scoring my points, how am I denying my points, how am I setting up for that next turn, and how am I doing that over the course of 5 turns. So it's just important, and I love the fact that we have these different. I love the fact that we had 2 lists today that are wildly different. It's not like a variation of one list. You know what I mean? These are like, hey, ready for the list that's crazy different than the first one, and they're both doing great. I think that the Orc. I'm actually excited for the Orc book when it comes out, but the Orc index is legit. You know what I mean?
That is true, and something we talked about is the September data slate, points update, whatever you want to call it, is coming, and I don't think Orcs are getting touched. And you have lots of different directions to go. This is a great time to be excited about Orcs because they're fine. I mean, I'm not going to say they're broken. They don't need adjusting, but they're not weak. You're not going to roll up to Orcs and just run over them. That's just not going to happen.
I love it though. I'm having a good time. Like I said, I'm bringing them Nova. I'm gonna have a great time with it. I will bring my evil Eldar after they get nerfed. That's what I'll start playing. To be honest with you, they'll just become awful, and I'll be like, back on the elves, baby. But for now, I just love. You know what? I'm giving another sneak peek. This is what I'm bringing. Feel free to plan against it. This is 100% my Nova list. If you played me at Nova and you wanted to know what I was playing beforehand, that's it. Right there. That's what I'm bringing. Except for Bubble Chuckas. Also, Alan, I need Bubble Chuckas by Nova.
That is another Brad special. By the way, this is what I'm playing. Also, do you have these?
True story. I also have 0 of these models on me right now, so I'm hoping I can figure it out by Nova. Also, if you're going to Nova and you need someone to stay with, I don't have a room either, or a ticket to the event. So I'm working on all these things. So hopefully I can get that solved by the actual event. So I feel it'll all just work out in the end.
Brad's an expert at 40K and 40K theory. Brad's personal planning skills, he's still working on those. We all got to improve somewhere.
What? This is a great plan. It's gonna work out. It has in the past. I think I'm gonna be good. It's all gonna be fine. Everybody,
right,
on that one, stay milky. We're out.